War leaves behind ruins not just of buildings but of memory. Cinema, in turn, becomes both a weapon and a mirror. Some films sought to glorify, others to mourn, and many to provoke outrage. But which German-language World War II films truly shocked, divided, or even got banned? Let's unravel 12 controversial works that still echo like distant sirens today. Kohlberg, 1945. When Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi minister of propaganda, ordered Kohlberg, he envisioned nothing less than Germany's cinematic answer to Gone with the Wind. Released in 1945 as Allied forces closed in, this sprawling war epic sought to inspire desperate resistance by glorifying the 1807 defense of Kohlberg against Napoleon. It was meant as a rallying cry, but it arrived far too late. Lavish production devoured scarce wartime resources. Tens of thousands of troops were pulled from the front to serve as extras. Cinematic snow was manufactured in the midst of fuel shortages while cities lay in rubble. Soldiers dying at the front must have seemed painfully aware that horses, uniforms, and entire regiments were being squandered on a film set. Despite all this effort, the movie was screened in only a handful of theaters before the Third Reich collapsed. After the war, Kohlberg became a symbol of the absurdity of propaganda, a film urging resistance while Germany itself was burning. The tragedy of Kohlberg is not just in its propaganda but in its timing. It stands as the last cinematic gasp of a crumbling regime, a monument to the delusion that film could turn the tide of war. Triumph of the Will. Triumph des Willens, 1935. Few films in history are as controversial as Leni Riefenstahl's Triumph of the Will. On the surface, it is a technical marvel, sweeping aerial shots, rhythmic editing, and innovative camera angles that forever changed documentary filmmaking. But beneath its artistry lies its poison. It was crafted as the defining propaganda piece for Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Shot during the 1934 Nuremberg Rally, the film portrays Hitler as a messianic savior descending from the skies to unite his people. The crowds are endless, the speeches framed like sacred sermons. Viewers at the time were entranced by its grandeur. Even critics who despised the message acknowledged its breathtaking technique. After the war, Riefenstahl insisted she was merely an artist, not a propagandist. Yet her legacy is inseparable from the film's disturbing beauty. It remains banned in many contexts, studied under tight restrictions in film schools, and endlessly debated as the ultimate example of how art can serve evil. To watch Triumph of the Will today is to confront the terrifying truth that cinema can inspire not just empathy, but fanaticism. Hitlerjunge Quecks, 1933. If Triumph of the Will mythologized Hitler, Hitlerjunge Quecks sought to mold the youth. Released in 1933, the film tells the story of Heine Volker, a working-class boy lured into the communist youth movement before ultimately embracing Hitler's Hitler Youth. The climax sees him martyred by his former comrades, dying with the Nazi anthem on his lips. The movie was based on a real boy, Herbert Norkus, whose death in a street fight was exploited as propaganda. The film became required viewing for German students, cementing the idea that true honor lay in sacrifice for the Reich. Parents who resisted sending their children to screenings faced social pressure and sometimes worse. To modern audiences, Hitlerjunge Quecks is chilling in its manipulative storytelling. It uses melodrama, sentimentality, and youthful innocence to legitimize indoctrination. The tragedy isn't just Heine's fictionalized death, it's the thousands of real German children inspired by such films to pledge their lives to a doomed cause. The Murderers Are Among Us. Die Mörder sind unter uns, 1946. When the war finally ended, Germany faced not just physical ruin, but a moral abyss. The Murderers Are Among Us, directed by Wolfgang Staudt, was the first German film made after World War II and the first of the so-called Trümmer film or rubble films. Shot among the shattered remains of Berlin, It captured the psychological wreckage of a nation struggling to confront guilt. The story follows Dr. Hans Mertens, a traumatized surgeon haunted by his wartime experiences. He recognizes a former Nazi officer who ordered massacres but now lives comfortably as a businessman. Mertens wrestles with whether to kill him in vengeance or deliver him to justice. The narrative mirrored the real dilemma of millions. Should they expose collaborators or bury the past for survival? Controversy swirled because the film pulled no punches. Soviet authorities in East Germany initially demanded the execution scene be softened to promote reconciliation. Still, it shocked audiences who were not yet ready to see their neighbors or themselves reflected as perpetrators. Many walked out of theaters, while others praised it as a rare act of honesty. This film's power lies in its refusal to let Germany look away. In the shadows of bombed-out ruins, it asks the most haunting question of all. Could a country rebuild without first facing its crimes? The Bridge, Die Brücke, 1959. By the late 1950s, a new generation of German filmmakers sought to break the silence of their parents. Bernhard Wicki's The Bridge emerged as one of the most devastating anti-war films ever made. Unlike propaganda epics, it focused not on generals or ideology but on 7 teenage boys drafted to defend a small bridge during the final days of the war. The film begins with youthful bravado. These boys dream of heroism, cheered on by teachers and officers. But when real combat arrives, their illusions shatter brutally. One by one, they are slaughtered in a futile defense of an insignificant crossing, sacrificed to prolong a war already lost. Upon release, The Bridge sparked outrage and admiration. Older Germans bristled at its implicit critique of a society that fed children to the war machine. Younger viewers embraced it as a truth long suppressed. Internationally, it earned acclaim, winning the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Film and cementing itself as a cornerstone of anti-war cinema. Its final image, bloodied bodies lying beside a bridge that holds no strategic value, still echoes as one of cinema's most searing indictments of senseless sacrifice. It is less a film than a funeral elegy for an entire stolen generation. Downfall, Der Untergang, 2004. Decades later, controversy reignited with Downfall, Oliver Hirschbiegel's portrayal of Adolf Hitler's final days in the Berlin bunker. Based on eyewitness accounts, the film dared to humanize the Führer not by excusing him, but by showing his paranoia, delusion, and terrifying charisma. Bruno Ganz's performance as Hitler stunned audiences, a trembling, broken man screaming at generals, then doting softly on his secretaries. For some, the nuance was dangerous. Critics feared it blurred the line between understanding and sympathy. Others argued it was essential to confront Hitler not as a monster from myth, but as a human who committed monstrous crimes. The film's release sparked heated debates in Germany. Was it appropriate to give Hitler so much screen time? Could such portrayals risk inspiring neo-Nazis? Yet the film's power lay precisely in its refusal to hide behind caricature. Instead, it forced viewers to see how ordinary men and women followed him into madness. Downfall became infamous worldwide when its bunker meltdown scene spawned endless internet parodies. But stripped of memes, its true impact endures. It asked Germany and the world to reckon with the banality of evil inside claustrophobic walls where history collapsed. Stalingrad, 1993. By the 1992, German filmmakers were finally ready to tackle the Eastern Front, the deadliest theater of World War II. Joseph Vilsmeyer's Stalingrad is not a patriotic war drama but a brutal descent into hell. Following a group of German soldiers sent to one of history's bloodiest battles, the film strips away illusions of honor and shows only frostbite, starvation, and despair. Upon release, it split audiences. Some praised its unflinching realism. The camera lingers on gangrenous wounds, frostbitten hands, and endless snowfields filled with corpses. Others condemned it as too bleak, even anti-German. The controversy lay in its refusal to glorify sacrifice. Instead, it revealed soldiers as cannon fodder in a war of annihilation. Behind the scenes, the production itself mirrored hardship. Filming in sub-zero conditions left actors genuinely frostbitten. Costumes and props were painfully authentic, sourced from collectors and archives. The director aimed for historical accuracy so intense that cast members reportedly broke down on set, overwhelmed by the hopelessness they were reenacting. The film ends not with victory but with suffocation, soldiers freezing and starving in a frozen wasteland. It shocked German audiences who were accustomed to stories of battlefield valor. Internationally, it won respect as a rare German-made attempt to confront the horror of a campaign their nation had unleashed. Stalingrad is not easy viewing, but that is precisely its point. It dares to tell the story not of winners or losers, but of lives ground to nothing between two merciless empires. Generation War, Unsere Mutter, Unsere Vater, 2013. When this three-part miniseries premiered, German television had never seen anything like it. Generation War followed 5 friends through the years of World War II, 2 brothers sent to the Eastern Front, a nurse, a singer, and a Jewish tailor struggling to survive. Its ambition was monumental, to portray how ordinary Germans became both perpetrators and victims. The controversy was immediate. German audiences were riveted, but critics accused it of sanitizing history. Some argued it softened the complicity of ordinary soldiers, showing them as reluctant participants rather than willing executioners. Polish officials condemned its depiction of anti-Semitism within the Polish resistance, sparking diplomatic protests. Jewish groups questioned whether it placed too much focus on German suffering rather than Jewish annihilation. Despite these storms, the series was a sensation. Millions tuned in, sparking heated family debates across Germany. Younger viewers saw their grandparents' generation humanized in a way textbooks never managed. Older viewers finally spoke of long-buried memories. Internationally, it sold to over 150 countries, where audiences were both moved and unsettled by its attempt at national self-reflection. In the end, Generation War succeeded not because it resolved history, but because it forced living rooms to reopen wounds. It reminded Germany that reckoning with the past is not a single act, it is an endless conversation across generations. The Great Dictator, Der Grosse Dictator, 1940. Though originally a Hollywood film by Charlie Chaplin, The Great Dictator carries a controversial German-language legacy. At the height of Hitler's power, Chaplin dared to satirize the Führer directly, creating Adenoid Hinkel, a buffoonish caricature of dictatorship. The film was banned outright in Nazi Germany, but after the war, German-dubbed versions spread widely, sparking laughter and outrage alike. Chaplin himself was nervous. He later admitted that had he known the full extent of the Holocaust, he would never have dared to parody Hitler. Yet his film struck a unique blow, using comedy to puncture fascist grandeur. In Germany, early post-war audiences were divided. Some found it liberating to laugh at what once terrified them. Others saw it as disrespectful or too soon. The film's final speech, an impassioned plea for humanity, liberty, and compassion, resonated deeply with war-torn German audiences. Yet critics debated whether a foreign comedian could truly capture the horror Germans had lived. The controversy was not about Chaplin's genius, but about whether laughter was an appropriate weapon against evil. Today, German-language screenings remain both cathartic and uncomfortable. The film reminds us that dictators thrive on fear and spectacle, and that sometimes the sharpest weapon is ridicule. Chaplin's parody outlived the man it mocked, echoing through history as satire's defiant roar against tyranny. Europa, Europa Hitlerjung, Solomon, 1990. Few films rattled audiences quite like Agnieszka Holland's Europa, Europa. Based on the true story of Solomon Perel, a Jewish teenager who survived by posing as a Hitler youth, the movie blended absurdity with tragedy in ways that shocked both German and international audiences. When it premiered, many German distributors refused to touch it. Why? Because it dared to present the Holocaust not in solemn tones, but through the bizarre twists of one boy's survival, dodging suspicion, singing Nazi songs, and hiding his identity in plain sight. Some felt it trivialized horror. Others argued it captured survival's surreal contradictions better than any solemn drama. The controversy intensified when Germany declined to submit it for the Academy Awards, sparking accusations of denial and discomfort with its unsettling subject. Yet audiences who did see it were haunted. Laughter mixed uneasily with dread, as Solomon's story revealed just how fragile identity and morality become under tyranny. In the end, Europa forces viewers to accept that survival often means deception, compromise, and unbearable irony. It is both tragic and darkly comic, a reminder that in war, the line between absurdity and horror is paper-thin. Mephisto, 1981, István Szabó's. Mephisto, though a Hungarian production, struck Germany like a thunderclap. Adapted from Klaus Mann's novel, it told the story of an ambitious German actor who sells his soul to the Nazi regime in exchange for fame. The film's protagonist, Hendrik Höfgen, mirrors the real-life actor Gustav Gründgens, a towering star of Nazi-era theater. The movie was internationally acclaimed, winning the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. But in Germany, it sparked lawsuits and fierce debates. Relatives of Gründgens fought to suppress it, arguing it smeared his name. Critics argued over whether the film unfairly vilified artists who collaborated or bravely exposed the corruption of cultural elites under dictatorship. Its power lies in its uncomfortable question: how many artists traded integrity for survival, prestige, or luxury? Höfgen's dissent is chilling precisely because its plausible ambition blinds him to morality until he becomes a puppet of tyranny. To this day, Mephisto embodies the most haunting of dilemmas. Can art remain pure under tyranny, or does every compromise leave blood on the stage? Inglourious Basterds, 2009. Though directed by Quentin Tarantino, Inglourious Basterds stirred enormous controversy in Germany upon its release. Dubbing it into German only heightened debates. Could a bloody, cartoonishly violent revenge fantasy about Jewish soldiers scalping Nazis be considered respectful cinema, or was it exploitation masquerading as history? German critics were sharply divided. Some praised its audacity, seeing catharsis in rewriting history where Hitler is gunned down in a movie theater. Others condemned it as tasteless spectacle, trivializing the Holocaust by turning it into pulp entertainment. The casting of German stars like Christoph Waltz, who won an Oscar for his chilling role as Colonel Hans Landa, made the debate even more personal, as audiences wrestled with seeing their language used in both comedy and carnage. The film's dark humor and brutal violence forced Germany to confront its own cinematic taboos. Was it healthy to laugh at Nazi slaughter on screen, or did it risk reducing atrocity to parody? Tarantino, of course, thrived on the outrage, insisting his work was movie history, not a documentary. Inglourious Basterds remains polarizing, but its German-language screenings proved one thing: the wounds of World War II run so deep that even fictional revenge fantasies can feel like salt in the scar. From Nazi propaganda epics to daring post-war reckonings, from satire to surreal survival stories, these films reveal that cinema is never neutral. It can heal, it can manipulate, and it can wound. Which of these films struck you most? Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. History thrives in discussion.